Here is where my father, your grandfather Monice, enters the situation. My father had been one of those boys at the orphanage, and many years later, after I had been born, he began to complain of the stalking and perpetual watching. He returned to the nuns, now a grown man with the beginnings of his own family, complaining to them that he felt John Michael was still alive and out to get him. Paranoia, insisted the nuns, and nothing more. They had rid themselves of John Michael with their own hands years before, had chored through the process of burial themselves. They knew beyond any shadow of doubt that the creature was dead. Then why did he have this feeling of threat? There was someone in his room when he slept, he could feel it, and there in the corner at any moment was the disturbing shade, bolder than black, of a 4-foot fellow. Petrified, he would shiver without wink until morning. And not long after, my father was reported missing, and some months later was found dead in the well. It is not at all chilling to report that it was the very same wishing well where John Michael had first been found. One by one, the boys began returning to the orphanage, pleading for assistance, claiming they saw him still, not directly, but the flickering image of his remains when they should turn a corner, the hair on the backside as some trail for their eyes to frighten upon. And sleeping, yes, they knew he was in the room. They could hear that heavy thud walking beneath the bed, or even worse, they could see the reflection of moon-like tombs upon those huge blue eyes in the darkness. One by one, they experienced a stalking, went to the nuns for assistance, assured it was him, received no help whatsoever, and died horrid deaths not long after. But only some of them returned, the nun told me, not all. Only those with undisciplined, unpunished children returned with pleas for help, while those with perfect little angels for boys and girls were left unbothered and untouched. This led to the conclusion by all that John Michael was finally out to snag the parents of those children who had not disciplined their children, still the punisher in his mind, keeping the boys, now grown men, in perfect check. He was finally correcting in his own twisted way this unhappy humanity that had led him astray. The nun finished her story, begging once more for my own safety that I punish you severely, for no reason at all but this very instant to go forth from my parlor, find you, and beat you to the point of death. The nun left my home when she finished her story, and I did not believe. Then soon came my own trepidation. I too began to feel that ever-present presence of something odd in the corner, and when turning to peek would see only the rough remains of something darting off quickly. Sleeping, I heard the breathing, suggested to my wife we were in danger, and she too, convinced of fable, did not believe. Within days I could no longer sleep, could no longer think, for there was the constant shadow over me of some impending doom of which I knew was forever in the room about to strike at me. It became unbearable, intolerable. Still, I made no effort to punish you, and the stalking I had been told of by the nun did nothing but increase to a degree that hinted at impending death. I went to the graveyard of the diseased tonight, though. With shovel in hand, I set out to prove to myself that John Michael had been a fable and that I was in no danger of threat. I found the little edge of the cemetery with the frail code of sticks and began to dig for hours and hours, and through that time I saw only the clever shadow of that man over there in the corner, here beneath an old oak tree, or there at the gates where the smell of the grave lingers slightly longer. And when I came to the cardboard box, I opened it to find not a corpse, no, not at all, but something even more terrifying. A box of books. I knew him to be real now, and knew him to be so deceiving. When the nuns took out to the cemetery that box, they took out not him, but the weight of binding, papers, and words. I ran home as quickly as I could, though I knew it was too late to prevent any harm to myself, much less save your mother. And I found you in the middle of our brightly lit parlor, your eyes clenched close, your screams dissolving my blood to nothingness. And there in the corner I saw what would sooner or later be true. Your mother, dead, head lolling, head rolling to the side, and mouth and eyes wide with final fear, some discarded doll, or hideous plaything. The police have come and gone, and no promise has been made to me of a suspect. Like so many years before when my father died, the mistrust of man has begun to swell again. It is now 2 hours since my return from the cemetery, and there in bed you now sleep while I write out this letter in haste, applying the instructions that it should be given to the nuns, to be given to you upon the birth of your own child. I beg of you, Monice, to do what is asked and told of you, and when your child is born, my darling dearest, love him or her, but more so, do not neglect your child, but punish them if need be. I cannot ask forgiveness from you for what I am about now to send you to. A continuing snare of entrapments that will forever rotate in a deadly cycle if you do not take this warning. I love you dearly, so dearly words will never ever fully penetrate the emotion onto the page. Know that I will forever love you. Forgive me, I can say nothing more, for I hear John Michael approaching. Your father, D. Lowell.